In the meantime, all of this, political fallout, her health fallout, Donald Trump surging in the polls fallout, the collapse in oil and stocks, all of that. What's really happening here? Scott Martin and David Scranton are both with us. Scott, well, we were talking about how calm the markets were in August. September is already a
interestingly since you got back.
Yeah, well, go ahead.
Blame me.
Don't blame me.
What's they waited for you to come back instead of trading like they were earlier this year. I mean, Neil, you mentioned in your lead-in, there's about 5 things that really could be rocking this market. I think it's the Fed. I think number one priority here is the Fed meeting next week, because if the Fed raises rates into what I think is a pretty slow economy, a pretty tough credit market, I don't know what's going to be sicker, the markets or Hillary Clinton.
David, you know, the expectation was up until yesterday, and a dovish Fed member saying not so fast, that they might be inclined to hike. Now a little less so? And if that's the case and they don't, then what?
I'm going to stick with my story from December when the Fed raised rates last time. I was on a panel at the New York Stock Exchange. My comment right then is I wouldn't be surprised if she's unable to raise rates at all during 2016. And the biggest part of the reason for that is the flat yield curve. You know, even despite
a little steeper today,
a little bit, that's right. But even despite Draghi's comments or lack of comments on Friday, I still don't see the long-term yields going up that much. You know, if you think about it, we had about 5 months from the end of 2014 to the beginning of 15 between our own end of quantitative easing and the beginning of Europe's. And the long-term end of the yield curve didn't spike during that time. And there's a good reason. The reason is because there's kind of sort of global lack of demand. And when you have lack of demand globally, you simply cannot have spiking interest rates.
All right, we should explain. You guys are geniuses, and you hear this flattening or heightening yield curve. That is the difference between short-term interest rates and longer-term. And up until today, a little bit, you know, they've been kind of flat, signaling a flat economy.
You made a good point, though. In the last couple of weeks, that yield curve has started to perk up quite a bit. I mean, look at today.
What is that?
It tells me something's going on in the sense of the Fed is in play. I don't think September's in play, David, but I think December is. And
by the way, what if the Fed surprised you and hiked rates next week?
That would be incredible. I think it'd be incredibly dangerous to the market short term. It'd be incredibly dangerous to HRC's plans for November, because it could put a sell-off into the market in November that would put the voters at the polls thinking, oh my gosh, the economy's on thin ice, the Fed made a mistake. Donald Trump's already said one of his first orders of business is to toss Yellen. So can you imagine if Trump wins, Neil, let's say they don't hike. Trump wins in November, does she even hike in December knowing that she's on the hot seat?
Do you guys buy the fact that Trump's prospects look better than they did? I mean, the people who crunch the electoral vote numbers say still he has an uphill climb, but that it was better than it was certainly a week ago.
I do. I think he has, as long as he doesn't put his foot in his mouth, yes, he's got better prospects than he did before. And you see over the last couple of weeks where he's really, honestly, for the first time, making an attempt to be more presidential. Now, what that means for the financial markets will depend upon what he does his first few months. For the financial markets, depends upon what he does the first few months in office. So we'll have to see. It'll be anybody's guess if he gets.
He's got the momentum, and that's the scary thing too. Though I think if you look at the markets as they've reacted to polls, as Trump has tightened the lead, or at least brought in a little bit of the narrow lead that Hillary has, the markets reacted a little bit severely to that. It hasn't really liked what we've seen in the polls so far.
They just don't know what they're getting.
Right.
That's still, after all this time. All right, guys, thank you very much with all of this stuff going on here. We should also